Welcome to Goobertown Hobbies. My name is Brent. So last year I told myself that this year I would enter a painting competition. That was 51 weeks ago that I told myself that, so we have 1 week left to get something ready for the competition. And you know what? Let's do it. We are going to enter Resin Beast 2024. Now, Resin Beast is a competition that allows miniatures from 4 different companies. The options are Creature Caster, Eldritch Foundry, Bestiarum Miniatures, and Conquest Parabellum Games. Whoops, I'm getting rambly. I want to paint something from Conquest. Now, the Brontosaurus is cool, but I'm not going to have that much room in my luggage. I like the Raptor Rider kit, but I think that might take me more than a week. These orcs are neat, and I especially love the double-bladed sword. Another cool unit is the Nord Bow Chosen. Now, it's this one in particular with his leg up on a rock that gave me an idea. And when I looked at this miniature, I knew what I was going to do for this competition. I figured it's possible to do in a week. So enough dilly-dallying here, let's get to it. The bow chosen fit into the small model category. For minis of this size, the competition sets a limit of a 50mm square base with a total height of 15 centimeters. I started by measuring out a cardboard footprint to make sure that I follow the rules. I've never made a display plinth before, and I want to see if I can make one out of old sprue. I have more experience gluing plastic together than I have with fine woodworking. So the idea that I have for this piece is that scene in the Two Towers from Lord of the Rings where Legolas goes sliding down a staircase on a shield while he's still shooting orcs. Essentially, the display base is going to be a staircase, or as much of a staircase as I can fit into this little square. Cutting and gluing all these plastic sticks is taking a while, but this thing is solid. I'm going to build it into the shape that I want, and eventually I'll use green stuff for milliput to put a rocky veneer on this set of stairs. It's day 2 now, and the stairway is coming along, but the miniature itself is still on the sprue, so we gotta get that fixed. There's one particular pose that I'm interested in, so I went and got the bits. Here's the earliest mock-up of the entry. As a surfboard, I chose a shield from one of the Dweghome dwarf kits. I'm going to do some light conversions on this model. I want the leading leg to be a bit shorter and to have more of a bend to it, so I started cutting. He's got a bit of a skirt that'll cover up most of the flaws in my modification. I got my clamps to hold things nice and tight while I'm gluing. Hopefully we won't need to deal with many gaps. I decided to give him a different bow. I made a cut at the wrist and made the swap. I like the design of the new bow better, and it also has a dangling skull that's a bit swept back to show some motion. This guy is supposed to be sliding down those stairs. For more motion, I'm adjusting the flow of his braid. I want it flying behind him instead of hanging loose. I made a cut just behind the hair tie. I trimmed a little wedge off of the braid to change the angle, and then I glued it back on. I didn't use pins for any of these conversions, but they turned out reasonably strong. I got him glued to his shield, and in the meantime, I'm still building the wall up to the ramparts that'll serve as the backdrop. You know, I think this is gonna look alright. I got him glued to a temporary base and attached to a painting handle. By now it's late on day 2 and it's time to prime this archer. I chose camo green and I used my airbrush to lay down a thin coat. Here it is. Here's my conversion compared to a standard build from the kit. It only took a few subtle changes to make a figure that's gonna fit the scene. It's day 3 and I'm ready to start the base coat. I chose green as the major color to help people get the illusion to Legolas. I've got some browns lined up for various bits of wood and leather. I liked the gray on the hair of that test model, so that's what we're doing. In the movie, it was a dark-colored Uruk-hai shield, so I'm starting things off with Payne's gray. For his clothes and armor, I chose 3 different base colors of green. His shirt and pants are yellow-green. His hauberk is a black green, and a few smaller bits of armor are going to be camo green. I'm using mostly colors from Pro Acryl with an occasional selection from 2 thin coats. The feathers on this guy will be a major block of accent colors. In general, I like the combination of orange and green. I don't want the orange to be hitting folks in the face though, so I started things off with burnt sienna, which is an orangey brown. Alright, let's see where we're at. I'm reasonably happy with the color balance and where this is going, but I need to take a break from painting. Back to the stairs. I finally have the dimensions that I want, and it's time to make it look like stonework. Before I start putting on some putty, let's make sure that none of the sprues are sticking out too far. The hard plastic core is ready. Out of curiosity, I weighed it. 105 grams of sprue put to good use. I glued the stairs to a wooden handle to make sculpting and painting a bit easier. Once I start with a putty, we'll need to do it all at once. It's evening on day 3, and I've still got enough energy for this. I decided to use Milliput, and I got going with the mixing. This epoxy putty is going to be rock hard by tomorrow, but for 1 or maybe 2 hours, I can sculpt with it. First, I mashed a thin layer all over everything. Next, I remembered to put some gloves on. The rocks will be more believable without too many fingerprints. I'm using some old aluminum foil to texture the putty. The crinkles and pointy bits in the foil do a decent job of giving a stone texture. Next, it's time to carve the outlines of the brickwork. I'm using the height of each stair as the height of a block. This long blade is useful for making horizontal lines to represent the rows. Once I had the horizontal lines, I used a hobby knife to cut in all the vertical lines to make bricks. I found that the important part is getting the corners nice and clean so that they really look like individual blocks. The stairs are heavy enough now that my wrist started to get tired and achy from holding it. I did the best that I could, and then I put it down and let the putty cure overnight. Okay, it's day 4, so that means we're kind of halfway through the allotted time, and this is where we're at. We've got stairs, and we've got an archer on a shield, and I think we're far enough along that this really is going to happen. So I went ahead and I bought a ticket for Resin Beast. It's $0 if you register ahead of time, but I did it. I paid my $0 and we're in. So yeah, that means we got to finish this up. Feeling good, but a lot more painting to be done. The Milliput has cured, but I'm still able to scrape some crumbs out of the cracks. I did this until I got bored, and then it was time to paint. I loaded up my airbrush with black-brown primer from Monument Hobbies, and I put down 2 coats all over the stairs. I don't want to see any of that nasty yellow putty underneath. When the primer was dry, I got out a makeup brush to dry brush the stonework. I've got a texture palette and a couple of shades of gray. I'm using this circular motion all over the rocks to deposit a bit of gray to get the bricks highlighted. Now, back to work on the archer. I'm layering lighter colors over the base coat. I got started with the bones, and then I got on with layering up the skin tone. I'm leaving the darker brown in the shadows and the eye sockets, and I'm making his forehead and nose a bit brighter. I was feeling steady, so I got my size 00000 brush, and I painted the eyes. An oval of off-white, a dot of blue, and a smaller dot of black. Hey, not too bad. I'll try to clean up the edges a bit later, but this'll do for now. I kept working on a bunch of the smaller details, steel rivets and brass buckles. Things are moving along nicely. I decided that I wanted to use an oil wash, so I gave the model and the stairs both a coat of gloss varnish. This will protect what we've painted so far, and it'll help the wash move around better. The stairs are getting an all-over black enamel wash to add a final layer of depth, and to obscure any mistakes that I made in dry brushing. For the archer, I'm being much more targeted. Some regions have a good texture for wash, but in other areas, like the skin and the green cloth, I'm not putting on any wash at all. The best part of using an oil wash is getting to use a bit of mineral spirits to come back and clean things up. I was able to clean the high points and get the stairs to be a color that I'm really happy with. There's still a ton to do on the archer, but the shading and the midtones are looking pretty good. I'm going to let the organic solvents dry overnight and do a matte varnish in the morning. We put in a good day of work, and we're starting to really get an idea of where this is all going. It's day 5, and I'm down in the basement giving these a quick varnish with my airbrush. The stairs are pretty much done, and the archer, well, we've got a couple of days left to make the archer look good. The stairs are done, so I snapped them off of the painting handle. The final weight is 149 grams, of which 105 is sprue. Good to know. Good to know. So I'm not getting a lot of painting done today because today I am a painting judge at a local event. This is the Ides of March tournament up here in coastal Maine. It's sponsored by Treasure Trove Keep. And yeah, it's my job to look at a bunch of beautiful models and pick out some favorites. And yeah, it's a pleasure, it's a joy. And then maybe tonight I'll get a little more painting done. Spoilers, I did not get anything painted that night. This is the end of day 5. It's day 6 and I have picked out my disguise. So I entered this competition under the pseudonym of Bert Mabers. Now, I'm in no danger of winning this competition, but I don't want the judges to feel biased in one direction or another. I want to truly be anonymous for this. So I haven't shown anyone pictures of what I'm working on, and I've entered under a pseudonym, and I really do plan on going down and submitting my piece in a stupid disguise when the time comes. So yeah. This is Bert Mabers. I'll be the alter ego participating in this competition. And Bert Mabers needs to get back and finish up his painting. Back to it. There are 2 days left until I need to get on a plane to Adepticon. I'm super busy with packing and planning. I need to finish up an edit for a different video of Goobertown hobbies. I also need to record an episode of Paint Bravely the podcast with my buddy Casey from eBay Miniature Rescues. I'm really starting to feel the time crunch on the painting. At this point, I'm just trying to get some decent highlights on things. This is my first painting competition. I was never in any danger of winning, but I want to get the experience of putting something in the case to see what it's like. Day 6 became day 7. Day 7 was gone in a blink, and we've got to call this done. I snipped the surfboard off of the temporary base. Now, let's take a look. I like it. It's good for what it is. Now, I do wish that I had given myself another week or 2. That would have been a great opportunity to push myself further and grow as a painter. Oh well, maybe next year. At least I've got an entry, and I think this guy is pretty neat. When people see him, they might even have a sensible chuckle. Okay, let's get on that plane. I packed the archer and the stairs separately because the base is heavy and the model is delicate. I'm doing final assembly in the hotel room. Some competition painters actually get some painting done at the convention, but not me. Let's get this guy into the case. The Eric from Eric's Hobby Workshop filmed Brent turning into Bert. Then we went down to submit the entry. We moved quickly through the convention hall, and the disguise fooled most people. Who is this mysterious wizard, and what does he want? We made our way into the convention hall. The Resin Beast cases are between the Conquest booth and the Creature Caster booth, and across from the Eldritch Foundry booth. It's a smaller competition than the Golden Demon, but it's growing every year. There are already some outstanding pieces in the cases. I want to put mine in there to do my part for growing the competition. I only got recognized once. That's Lila Mev. She has a keen eye. Shh, Lila, we're so close. Don't blow my cover. Okay, so Peter here is the co-founder of Creature Caster, and he's the one who takes the submissions. I've met this man a handful of times. We don't know each other well, but we do know each other. This was the moment of truth, and the Bert Mabers disguise actually worked. When I picked up my model from Peter later on, he was surprised, and he didn't know that it was me in the wizard costume. The only hiccup in registration was the spelling of Bert. I spell Bert with an E, and Peter spells Bert with a U. That's something to consider for future disguises. Obviously, a pseudonym isn't necessary, it's mostly just a joke. But then again, I've graded enough exams and lab reports in my life to know that it's faster and cleaner to judge something when it's anonymous. But mostly I became Bert Mabers because I think it's pretty funny. The Resin Beast display cases kept filling up with incredible entries. My mini looks decent at home, but when you put it into the case next to these others, you can really see how much skill and creativity is in our community. I love it. The whole convention was amazing, but let's fast forward to the Resin Beast award ceremony. Here are the worthy judges. Unfortunately, the room didn't have a projector to see the finished pieces, but it was still awesome to cheer for some familiar faces who were getting recognized for their phenomenal paint jobs. The winners in the small model category were Joe Orthober, Kelsey from Chromatic Miniatures, and Sam Lenz. If you're on Instagram, those are some good folks to follow. Eventually, I think the winning pieces from all the categories are going to get posted on resinbeast.com, so keep an eye on that. Okay, well, the convention is over, and now we've got to return home. Alrighty, I'm back home from Adepticon. I think you can tell from my voice that I had hundreds of great conversations while I was there. The whole convention was amazing, and the competition was a cool little part of it. So we are at the phase where I need to open up my packaging here and see if my piece survived. So let's do it. Wish us luck. Yep, we made it. All right, let's get some final glamour shots of this and we will close out this little experience. What I was able to paint in the week before the convention is a fair sample of my current level of painting, and I'm glad that I put it in the case. Sadly, I didn't budget enough time to really push myself and grow, but now I'm tempted to try again. This archer is a benchmark, and it's an achievable goal to try to make a better looking entry for next year. I have no interest in trying to compete with the Masters, but challenging myself to a rematch seems like a worthwhile pursuit. I might have to make a new disguise for next time too, or maybe Bert Mabers will return. That's something to think about. Okay, that's it for today. Thanks so much for watching.